welcome to Laura's Life Coaching. Today we're going to talk about a topic that is really important when trying to explain what I do with my coaching. And that topic is called codependency. Now, oftentimes people don't really understand what that means. So I'm going to kind of explain it a lot in this video. Codependency, a lot of times people interpret that as being dependent on another person. Now, that's not necessarily all false. I think that a lot of times independent people that can stand up for themselves, that seem to have a lot of their stuff together, don't like the term codependency because they don't believe that they're dependent on another person. But there are different ways to be dependent on another person. Codependency really has to do with seeking love and approval outside of yourself. And oftentimes when people are codependent, they're dependent on that other person for that approval, for that love, for that thing that they don't give themselves. That it's really an act of self-love. It's their inner being that isn't giving them enough love and enough approval within themselves, and so they constantly seek it outside. And when you do that, what often happens is you want to fix other people. You want to help other people. You want to constantly do more and do better in order to gain their love and approval. And when you feel like you don't do that, it's really hard to break that pattern. And when you feel that pull of codependency, of wanting to fix another person, of wanting to heal and help the situation, it's not necessarily a bad thing all the time. It's just how far codependents take it sometimes. Because often codependents are really, really nice people. They really have a good heart and they want to do good for others. They want to help other people. And they want to be that source of love and approval for that other person who is not giving it to themselves. But the type of people then that they draw in are emotionally manipulative people that prey upon their energy and they take advantage of them. And they often get caught in this cycle of, well, if I only did this, then this person would love me. If I only did fix this. Well, they're just like that because they can't help themselves. So I'll do it for them. But the thing is that you can't fix another person. You cannot heal another person. And if you're seeking that love and approval outside of yourself, you're constantly going to be met with that feeling of exhaustion and that feeling of unworthiness, because you're never going, even if that person does truly love and genuinely love you and they're not emotionally manipulative, you're not giving that love to yourself, and there's a void that you're trying to fill. So you're constantly looking for those ways that you can step in and be the better person and help that person to become truly their best self. But you can't do that for them. So I've learned some tips along the way in helping to break down those ways of codependency in order to get your needs met and to fulfill the things that you need in your life. So number one is setting boundaries. I learned the hard way that you need to set very healthy boundaries with yourself on what you will and will not accept in your life. I had to unfortunately go through an emotionally abusive relationship in order to really understand that. And that's when I really learned that setting boundaries is one of the most healthiest, best things that you can do for yourself in order to give yourself self-love. So what kind of boundaries am I talking about? So some of the boundaries you can set for yourself are, one of the main ones is saying no. Saying no to other people and practicing it when you don't really want to do something. To some people that comes easy. To codependents, a lot of times it does not, because you don't want to disappoint other people. You don't want to let that person down. And when you constantly are saying yes to something that doesn't feel right and doesn't resonate with you, you're going to hold some resentments towards that other person. And you're going to hold resentments towards yourself. And you're going to think, why did I say yes to this? I don't want to do this right now. I'm not feeling up for it. And you're constantly going to be stuck in that pattern of the guilt and the feeling bad about yourself, and just feeling and getting burnt out. Burnout is a big thing with codependents. A lot of times they give and give and give, and they don't know how to say no. And if somebody ever asks for something, they will step right in and do that thing for them, and they don't know how to actually say no to that person. But that constantly, you're not doing self-care for yourself. You're not giving to yourself, and you're not helping the other person, because you're getting burnt out yourself. And that's not to say you can't say yes to things that can help other people. It's just you have to know when you are, you have the time for it, that you're taking care of yourself first and foremost, and then you can say yes to things and help other people. I think that a lot of times when you talk about healing the codependency and saying no, it's not black and white. You don't have to say no to everyone. But maybe at first you do, because you've neglected yourself for so long. So that's one of the main things that you can do to heal codependency. And the second thing really is to notice when your boundaries are being overstepped. So the first step is setting boundaries, but the second step is noticing when other people are overstepping those boundaries. Because if they're constantly overstepping the boundary that you set, that's a red flag. And that means that they're not healthy. They're not a healthy person for you. And even if you constantly tell them, hey, look, I'm busy right now, I can't do this for you, and they come up with well, you did it last time, and why aren't you doing it for me? And I feel like, I deserve it, and all those kind of things. That type of person is very toxic for you in your life, because that person doesn't understand self-care, the need for what you are doing. A healthy person will totally respect that, will understand, will say, hey, that's fine. If you can do it at some point, that's fine. If you can't, don't worry about it. And they will either find somebody else to help them, or they will kind of, dismiss it as, okay, well, I'll do it myself. So noticing when those people are not being healthy with that. Sometimes the red flags, though, they're harder to spot. And I'm going to get into a topic. I might actually do a whole video blog on this, because this is something that is actually really important. So there's a thing with emotionally manipulative people that tend to do this term, which I call love bombing. And I actually got this term from the Melanie Tonya Evans videos and her blogs that I follow, and I talked about that in my previous video, so if you want, I'll post the link again to her videos. And a lot of my information that I get about codependency, about all of this information, I get from Melanie Tonya Evans and from Ross Rosenberg and Teal Swan. Those are the three main people that I follow, that I get a lot of the information that I've really researched and that I've kind of studied to come up with a lot of this. So let me talk a little bit about what love bombing is. So love bombing is this technique where somebody, let's say you're on a date, and let's say this person kind of comes up to you and they seem very charming, they seem like a gentleman, and they're opening the doors for you, they're, you know, pulling out your chair, they're like helping you sit down, and you know, you're like, wow, this person is really nice, like nobody does that anymore, and like they're so sweet. But there's something off and you can't really pinpoint it yet. Then this person starts to maybe overdo it a little bit. Maybe they tell you things on the first date that are way too soon and are really out of line, or things that are flattering you. You're so beautiful. You're the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life. You're so perfect. I could never compete with you. Things like that. And, you know, at first, maybe you take it in because you're like, wow, this person is like flattering me. Like, they're so sweet. How could this person be mean? And like, I couldn't even like fathom this person to actually be mean to me. This is so nice. But it gets to be a little bit too much, and maybe they're a little bit too forward. Maybe they're trying to seek your love and approval way too much by maybe sitting very close to you. Maybe they're gesturing towards you. Maybe they're, you know, implying that you're the one, or they're saying that, well, I might be going away, and this might be my last chance. That's a red flag right there. You can probably start to see it as it's happening, but sometimes it's very hard to pick up, because there's a difference between a first date, somebody flattering you. That's very nice. Honestly, if somebody says, you're really beautiful, you look really good tonight, that's actually a really nice compliment. And that's something that would feel really good and is not over the top if they leave it at that and say, wow, I like that dress, you look really nice tonight, or just, you know, complimenting your eyes or something like that. A lot of times people will do that, and it, you know, doesn't necessarily mean that they're love bombing you. The difference is in the way that they do it. The way that, especially if you have told them that you're not interested. Maybe this is a friend and you have seen him kind of being a little bit more forward, him or her, depending on your relationship. And, you know, you've seen them like being way too forward, and you're just seeing that kind of level of like them just being a little bit too much. I just think that sometimes when people come on a little bit too strong, it's hard to know that line. But the difference between that and love bombing, I think that when they do the love bombing, they are trying to win the prize. And that's the difference. If you've told them that you're not interested, they should back off. A healthy person will back off if you tell them, hey, look, I'm sorry, like you're a nice person, but I'm not really interested right now. If you tell somebody that, they may be hurt. Like, it's not, it's natural for people to want stuff to move forward. They want a relationship or, all those kind of things. And it's natural for, people can get their, say, oh, well, I'm sorry, because I really want that. But then they back off and they stop complimenting you. They stop trying. They stop. Somebody who is emotionally manipulative will not stop, and they will continually try to win your love and approval, even if you've told them no. And that's another thing with codependency. When you are codependent, the difference between when you heal and when you start setting those boundaries and a codependent that is unhealed is that the codependent will never really know that this person is doing this to manipulate them, because they're looking for that love and approval outside of themselves, and they want a relationship. They don't just want a relationship, they feel like they need it. Codependents and emotionally manipulative people are on that same level of they feel like they need another person in order to be happy. And maybe you're saying, okay, well, maybe I'm not a codependent because I don't need another person to be happy. There are different ways to need another person. I mean, sometimes you need them for emotional support. Maybe you need them in other ways that you didn't think of. And it doesn't necessarily rule it out if you're saying that, well, I don't need another person to be happy. But oftentimes they do. And I realized that I was in that situation and that in order to heal myself, I really had to be by myself for a while, because it really helps for you to understand who you are, to really go into the places that you don't love yourself, and to really start to heal those parts of yourself and to really start approving of yourself more. And so that's really where I'm at in the codependency. I find myself still going into things where I'm like, okay, this is the codependency, but I've healed a lot. And I found that once I set those boundaries and once I noticed those red flags, and I healed the stuff that was underneath it, that's the third part. The third part is healing. That is probably one of the most important parts of healing codependency. Healing means going into the places that you don't love yourself. And, I've sought out, as I mentioned before, Melanie Tonya Evans. Her program is amazing when it comes to healing codependency. I found that going into the wounds and figuring out what is blocking you, why you're still feeling triggered, and healing that trigger before that, so that person doesn't show up in your life again. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there's one person that keeps showing up. It may be a couple people, or maybe many people that keep showing up in your life to repeat, because this pattern might be repeating. But once you say to yourself, okay, well, this is coming up again. What is triggering this? Let's go into that wound that's really causing this in the first place so that we can heal it. And really, once you learn to do that, that is the key to healing codependency. So I hope this video made sense. I kind of talked a lot about like what codependency is. If you have any questions about it, you can feel free to comment below. And please check out my website, which I will link below. I am accepting new clients right now. If you click the link that is on the website, it'll take you to my schedule and it'll show us how to schedule a session with me. The first session is a clarity session and it is free. And I explain exactly what I do in my coaching. Yeah, and I hope this video helped. This is kind of a lot of the times the type of clients I get, and this is really what I feel like I'm meant to help people heal from. All right, well, thank you so much.